So, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Nice to see you all again. See some familiar faces, and I think I see a couple of new faces too. Put your hand up if you're first time here. Yeah, hi Marilyn, welcome. Martin, yeah, great. Cormac. Oh, yeah, welcome to our dive-in session for this evening. So just a quick reminder of what we're doing here. I'm coming to you from Cape Town this time. I'm going to be here for a little while actually, so things are a little makeshift right now, but we'll get it all set up over the next while. So dive in, really, this is a forum for the practice of inquiry, right? So it's a place to learn about inquiry. And in it, we explore different aspects of inquiry and different topics that are relevant to inquiry. And through the last, year or so, I guess, we've probably been doing it about a year, we've been looking at my book, Diving in the Inner Ocean, and exploring different angles of inquiry as kind of highlighted in the book. And, we kind of have run through all of this. And so this is the first session where we're going to be talking about something broader, right? Or something outside of the immediate scope of the book. And I was, keen to talk about the Enneagram, because the Enneagram is so topical. A lot of people thinking about it. The Diamond Approach, within the Diamond Approach, of course, Hamid has written a new book called Keys to the Enneagram, and there is an online course going on at the moment around related to the Enneagram with Sandra, Maitri, and Russ, Hudson. So fantastic course. And I wanted to, just talk a little bit about inquiry from the perspective of the Enneagram and give you a chance to perhaps look at it in a different way. So through the evening it's an open evening, it's a public evening. Anybody is welcome to show up here. We are recording the event, and the recordings are generally shared. So just to be aware that you are in a public forum, and whatever you say, will be in those recordings. To hopefully bring all your questions and your own curiosities about yourself. Because remember, that's really what inquiry is about. Inquiry is simply a way that we explore and get to know ourselves. And tonight we'll look at how the Enneagram can be useful for that. So in the course of the evening, we'll do a little short practice to begin, little meditation. And then I'll say a few words, and then you'll have a chance to explore a little bit directly for yourself. So we do a very short exercise. You'll find yourself in a breakout room with one other person, and you'll each have 5 minutes to very briefly look into the topic, which I will share with you. And Wendy asked me to clarify what's recorded for people. So you're recorded, the main session is recorded, right? Everything is recorded in the main session. And when you go into your breakout rooms, it's not recorded at all. So that's completely your own. And that is for you to keep confidential, right? So whatever anybody else says in the breakout room, that's really just a space for each of you to do your own exploration and find out what's true for you. And then we come back here, and then again, it's all sort of in the open space. So we'll be recording again. Okay. So let's, and the past recordings you'll find, many of them are on the divein.life website. So if you want to have a look at those and review some of the past things that we've explored, they're on there, mostly on the blog page. And you're welcome to go and check them out and see if you find something useful. So let's begin with a short practice. So find a comfortable seat for meditation. And as always, I want you to begin feeling into how it would be to just feel friendly and interested. Friendly and interested and just curious about yourself, curious about your experience. So friendly and interested means no agenda. It means just sitting down going, oh, hey, hello, me. Let me see what's going on here. So you find this orientation of friendly interest. And take a moment to just notice where you are this evening. Just how you're feeling, what your state of your energy is. And just how's your mind? What's on your mind? And then bring your attention to your body, to your sensations. You want to let yourself feel your feet on the ground. Like sense the actual immediate sensations of your feet. Your toes, the balls of your feet, your heels, all contact with the ground. And then let your attention sort of move up your legs and come to your seat, to your bum on the chair. And just feel how the chair is supporting you, your weight meeting the chair. And then letting your attention come to your lower belly and sensing into your lower belly. And just feeling that part of your body. Your breath. Movement of your lower belly as you breathe. Let your attention rest there. So we're going to take a few minutes just sensing this lower belly. It might be a part of your body you're used to sensing, and it might not. And what you want to do for this while is just place your attention there and see if you can just hang out with it, noticing whatever sensations you happen to notice there. And if your mind takes you away and you go wandering off, which you may well, then there's no need to stop the mind. But as soon as you notice that, you bring your attention back to your lower belly. So just keeping focused on this lower belly to the best of your ability. And we'll sit for a few minutes like this. And take one more breath, sensing your lower belly. And then release the concentration with the exhale. Allow your awareness to open up, bringing in more of your body, your feelings, your mind. Begin sensing your arms and your legs, taking a moment to really feel the sensations of your arms and your legs. And then slowly add listening, consciously listening, being in touch with the immediate sense of sound. And then let your eyes begin to open and add looking. So you're consciously looking. So you're sensing, looking, and listening. Now I want you to reflect back a little on your meditation. Maybe you were sitting in silence the whole time. Maybe it was sitting in presence. But maybe there were certain things that kind of occurred to you, that just arose. Thoughts, reactions, certain sort of things that you were just occupied with or that came up. So if you just think for a moment, think about those. What were the things that kind of came up for you? What were the things that your consciousness was drawn to? That basically your consciousness sort of, even while you were deciding to do this meditation practice, your consciousness kind of went to certain things. So notice that and notice the content. Like, what were these things that your consciousness went to? Right? Are they the kind of things that you're often occupied with? Right? When you look at it, like, what makes it so compelling? What is it about that content that kind of draws you? Right? Maybe you were thinking about some situation, something about it. And something about it that kind of makes it, kind of gives it a hook on you, makes you want to keep thinking about it, keep ruminating on it. Yeah. Is anybody getting a sense of that? Right? And is this something that's familiar? So when you look at the particular thing, you can see that there's a particular thing you might have been talking about. But beyond just the particular thing, like this particular thing that happened today, maybe you were thinking about something that happened today and about how that was just wrong and annoying, right? And so you could be thinking about the thing, but then you might notice that actually the thing changes from day to day, but very often you're thinking about how things are wrong and annoying, right? So there is a piece of content, but there's also a broader pattern of what tends to pull your consciousness. Maybe you were thinking about somebody that you're worried about and that you're wondering what you need to do for them, right? How you can help them. And there's the particular thing that you were thinking about, your child maybe, or someone you care about, or your partner. The particular instance today, but maybe you look and see and you realize, oh, actually, I think about those kind of things a lot, right? I'm often thinking about those kinds of things. So I'm curious, just, it's a very short practice, right? We did it in 5 minutes. But just put up your hand if you kind of get something of what I'm saying here, if this is kind of landing with something. Okay, so some people, enough people, are getting a sense of it. Good. Right. So that's a very good entry then into our topic for tonight. Yeah. So, I use this analogy of inquiry being like diving in our inner ocean, right? We turn towards our experience, we look into what we're feeling and sensing and experiencing, right? Our ideas and beliefs, our reactions, right? And if we get really subtle and deep, we learn to sense our presence, right? The actual feeling of our consciousness itself in time, we can begin to discriminate. And when we start at the beginning, right, if someone is really new to inquiry, new to exploring themselves in this very direct and immediate way, because as you begin to know, it's not a theoretical, analytical thing, right? It's about really being in touch with the feelings and the thoughts and the sensations as they're happening. You're in touch with them as they're happening, and you're exploring them and recognizing them and being curious about what it is that's going on inside you. So at the beginning of the journey, you could say a lot of this is like snorkeling, right? You're snorkeling around in your inner ocean, right? You got your snorkel in and your little mask, and you jump into the water and you're like, oh, look, a fish, right? Oh, look, a reaction. I'm having a reaction there. That's interesting. Oh, God, I didn't know I was having all these strong reactions. So the first thing that you need to do is, just get used to being in the water. Get used to the kinds of creatures that we begin to see. We need to take time to get used to feeling all our different feelings. Right? Oh, I didn't even know I had all this frustration within me. I didn't know I had all this love. Or I didn't know I had all these longings, right? So as we begin to inquire, we get more and more in touch with ourselves and find all these things going on inside us. Didn't know I had all these beliefs, right? Beliefs about what I should do, how the world should be, what my life is about. And as we inquire, we begin to expose all these beliefs and ideas and feelings and sensations. We thought, oh, my body was just my body, but now I'm feeling joy in my chest. What an amazing thing. Who knew I could feel that? Who knew I could feel openness and spaciousness in my head, right, as an immediate sensation? So this is kind of the snorkeling phase. Every day is kind of like a new adventure. You jump in and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to find today, right? And at first, every day just kind of can seem like a different thing, a different adventure. Anger, then sadness, then all my ideas about how my work should go, and then all the things I'm longing for. And then we begin to get in touch with our psychology and these young parts in us. It's like, oh my God, that's a whole nother discovery, right? Oh, there's a little child inside me that has all these intense feelings, and that's what makes half of the reactions that I have feel so intense, is because it's not just me as an adult now feeling it, I'm experiencing it through the lens of this child that's bringing up this child, right? So much we get to discover. A superego, who knew there was that, right? That inner critic judge voice that's telling you, you should, standing there and on your shoulder, giving you a hard time. . So for some years, I would say, it's fair to say, for some years, we're really just getting oriented to this inner world, to this rich world beneath the surface of the ocean that we really, until then, may have had no idea really existed. And then, at some point, you begin to notice some things. Right? The more you hang out with it, you begin to recognize that although it's true that every time you dive in, you don't know what you're going to find, and every, day from day to day, the content differs and varies. At some point, you begin to recognize, but this is kind of similar to what I was experiencing last week. There are certain patterns here. Yes, I'm reacting to a slightly different thing, but there's a flavor to the reaction that's the same. There's a pattern here. It's not exactly completely different every time. Right? There are certain things that seem to set me off in the same kind of way. Things that I'm preoccupied about. And often it's kind of so much the water that we swim in that we don't even realize that it's a particular way of seeing things until we interact with somebody else or inquire with somebody else and you realize they don't see it that way at all. They don't have that particular preoccupation, that set of patterns that you have. They seem to have something completely different. They seem to be preoccupied with and concerned with a whole nother take on things. They also have patterns of reactivity, but they're organized around different things. So this is a really, really interesting moment of discovery, right? When we begin to recognize that our inner ocean has, how can I say, it has a certain environment, right? Some of us, when we go diving, we're in coral reefs. Some of us, when we go diving, we're in kelp forests. Some of us, when we go diving, most often we're over the seagrass lawns, right? All these different habitats that are the primary habitat that we seem to keep finding ourselves in. And, other things pop up for sure. It's not like you're always there. But you can begin to see these kind of recurring structural features to your experience. Now, in a certain way, this is how I see the Enneagram kind of fitting in, right? In a certain way, the Enneagram gives us a way of describing these primary habitats, these primary inner climates, right? It sort of describes, it helps us see the kind of broad structural patterns to our experience. Or it is, if you like, like a delineation or a description, an unpacking of these different climatic zones that we may find ourselves occupying, right? Now, it's quite an interesting thing. If you're coming at it from the point of view of the Enneagram, so if you're an Enneagram person who has discovered the Enneagram, maybe hasn't discovered inquiry so much, but you've discovered the Enneagram and you know about it and you've seen, yes, this kind of describes all my patterns and I see, I know that about myself, I have these kind of patterns, right? Then inquiry, if you're coming from the point of the Enneagram, is really the tool that helps you work with it. right? Russ Hudson, who's one of the teachers of this course, he wrote a very sweet little blurb to my book, and he said that as a teacher of the Enneagram, students often ask me what to do with the knowledge they acquire. And my response is that without practice, such learning cannot take us far. But here in Diving in the Inner Ocean, Dominic has provided an introduction to what I see as the central practice for working with our personality and for exploring the deeper mysteries of our essential nature, the practice of inquiry, right? So he says that inquiry is the central practice for helping us work, if we have knowledge of the Enneagram, to actually turn it into something useful. And to understand why that is, we could say that the Enneagram basically gives us a description of these different areas. Like it says, this is a kelp forest. This is what you'll probably find in it. These are the kinds of creatures that usually live there, and these are the sorts of patterns that they take. This is a coral reef. This is what it's like, right? This is a number 2, right? Each of them, they're numbered 1 to 9. So a number 2, they're a coral reef, and they have these kind of creatures in them, and they behave in these kind of ways, and these are the broad patterns that you can expect to find. And this is a number 3, which is a different one, and a number 4, which is a different one, right? So it gives us a map delineating these 9 different areas of concern that a personality can be constellated around. Now, you can have that map, you can have that intellectual knowledge, and you can look at your behavior and your inner experiences, and you can go, oh yeah, shit, that's what I do. Oh my God, look, that's what actually happens inside me, right? And that's one of the phases that people often go through with the Enneagram. Like you read it and you're like, wow, gosh, yes, this actually does describe something about what goes on inside me, right? So it helps with self-recognition, self-understanding, and that's useful. But, and this is the big but, knowing about kelp forests, even having read many books on kelp forests, right? When you dive into that water, right? No matter how much you've read and how much you can point out, okay, yeah, that's a that, and that's a that, and that's a that. To inquire, you still have to swim, right? You still have to go into the immediacy of the experience yourself, right there in the moment, in that forest, and explore it for yourself right there. And you can be guaranteed that what you will find will have certain features that are similar to what you've read, but it's its own unique, immediate thing that's happening now, right? So it's a live, living thing that you have to explore. You can only explore live in the moment. The inquiry, the way that inquiry is so powerful then, is that we actually are navigating underwater. We're exploring, we're going down into the kelp, we're finding the creatures that live there, we're actually studying what we find there to understand it and feel it and know it directly ourselves from inside, right? And that's what brings about the growth and the transformation. That's what makes inquiry the practice that is so powerful. Otherwise, we're just sitting on top of the water, looking down, going, oh, there's a that, and there's a that, and yes, I know I do these things, and I know I have these patterns, but I can't do anything with it, right? Like, okay, so I know that. The invitation with inquiry is to enter into them and to explore them and to find out. So as I was saying, from the perspective of the Enneagram, inquiry gives us the tools to actually begin to transform, to begin to grow and to learn. Right? From the perspective of inquiry, If you are not an Enneagram person, what does the Enneagram knowledge give you? In a certain way, you could say it's not necessary, right? In a certain way, you could say you don't need it because you just dive into the ocean and you go exploring and you explore what you find there, right? And you're exploring the immediacy of your experience, and that's all that counts, right? That's the main thing. That's what you're there to explore. You're exploring these patterns within yourself. You begin to see, oh, I have all these patterns, and you just get curious about them, right? You just find out about them. Oh, what makes me do that? That is actually enough. So there are many people who have gone very far with inquiry who've never even thought about the Enneagram, right? Because what you're orienting to is your immediate experience and what you can say from that. And that being said, there is often a lot of advantage. It makes your exploration go much more easily if you actually do have some prior knowledge about a kelp forest. You're like, okay, I know something about this, right? I know that if I go down there, there's likely to be these kind of creatures. I know something about the general ecology of the place, and that can help me navigate it more skillfully, more effectively, and more efficiently, because I'm not finding it all out completely from first principles. Right? And that's how the knowledge of the Enneagram is useful. And in a certain way, that's how any teaching, all the teaching in the diamond approach, for example, is useful in that way. We could just say, hey, just inquire. That's it, right? Just explore from your own experience. We could do that. But having a teaching, having an understanding to say to you, hey, this is kind of what the territory looks like. Don't take our word for it. Don't fossilize it and crystallize it and make it something that you hang your hat on, but let it be something open, that when you go diving, you might recognize, oh, okay, this is a little like what I read there. And that can help you engage with it more effectively. Whereas before, you might have just swum straight past going, there's nothing there. Now you can go, oh, hang on, I know it looks like nothing, but I know there's something. So let me hang out here. Let me take my time and explore this thing that I otherwise would have skipped over because something has given me a heads up that that's important. So this, I think of the way the Enneagram can be helpful, right? It gives you a view of the patterns in your experience. It doesn't substitute the need for direct inquiry or exploration. You still got to do all of that yourself. You might find something totally different, right? That's always a possibility. And that knowledge, that background can be very helpful in sort of speeding up your whole process of self-discovery. So I don't particularly, I don't tell my students they must do it. I don't tell them they shouldn't do it. I think everybody is totally fine to use it in whatever way they see fit. I will certainly say for myself, I have found it to be profoundly useful, both in my own process and as a teacher. In working with and inquiring with people, you begin to recognize the deeper structures of their consciousness. And I want to say one other thing about how we can use it in a useful way and a less useful way, right? So once you begin to get some of that knowledge, and actually this goes back to an experience I had with my own teacher once. So I was experiencing something, I was reacting in a certain way, and at some point I said, that's because I'm an Ennea type dot, right? And my teacher, bless him, said, okay, but if you don't just explain it away like that, he didn't say this, but he basically implied it. If you don't just go, oh, well, that's because I'm a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, right? What's it about? What's making that happen? What is that? And this is really the the kind of unhooking that people who are familiar with the Enneagram in a certain way need to do, right? So you don't just go, oh, I'm angry because I'm a 1, or I want to help this person because I'm a 2, or I'm concerned about being successful because I'm a 3, or I want to be special because I'm a 4. You go, oh, I want to be special here. I feel like my specialness is not being appreciated. What's making that happen? What's that like? Let me feel into that experience. Let me feel into that experience and find out where it's coming from inside me. All of the things that we've learned to do over the last 12 months, finding out what it is, what's the experience, what's making it happen inside me, right? Really feeling it and getting to know it in as intimate and immediate a way as I can, and just being curious about it. Not trying to change it, not trying to get rid of it. Just, oh, look, I'm reacting in this kind of a way. Huh, how interesting. Let me find out about that. Yeah? So then you're not just, because the minute you go, oh, it's because I'm an X, in that moment you have shut down the inquiry. The inquiry has stopped because there's nothing else to find out. You're like, oh, okay, it's because I did it because I'm an 8 and that's the end of it. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. You know that pattern is your 8-ishness. Fabulous. Well, find out in the moment. What's this particular instance of it bringing? How does this particular moment of it feel? And what's the meaning? And what is it that's making this particular instance of it happen? And what you will find, well, I don't know if you'll find it, what I have found and what I have seen in many people, right, is that it then, the Enneatype in a way reveals kind of a certain pattern or flavor to your journey. So it's not that it's a problem. It's not that each type has a problem that you're going to fix and work through and then that's going to be it. As far as I can tell, that isn't how it goes, right? But what happens is that at each stage of your journey, every iteration and development and movement and unfolding, you will probably tend to process it through that lens. It's as if the type is like the flavor or the lens, the primary, the primary lens through which your consciousness digests its experience. And when you see that, suddenly it's no longer a problem. It's not, as some people say, oh, your Enneagram type is what you are, it defines you. And it's not what some other people say when they say, oh, your Enneagram type is what you aren't. You should be free from it. I honestly don't entirely see either of those to be true. What I see in people's experience is that it is a kind of recurring flavor, a recurring pattern of issues that as you learn to understand and become more skilled in navigating, it just becomes the sort of organizing principle of your journey. And you can see it in Hamid, in some ways, right? Hamid is the founder of the Diamond Approach, for those who don't know. In some ways, he's still a 5, right? He's still investigating. He's still exploring reality. He's doing what a 5 does in an absolutely beautiful way. His inner experience is not of being a 5. There's nothing there, right? And that can happen. And yet, there is somehow still this kind of manifestation, right? So it totally changes in nature and form and experience, and something of it kind of continues. So that's a whole lot that I've said. It's probably the most anybody has said about the Enneagram without actually talking about the Enneagram. So I haven't said anything about what it is, right, or the content of it. And as I think about it, I'm not sure that I'm inclined to. I would like to offer you a little exercise, though. Maybe I'll say something. So in very brief terms, for those of you who are not familiar with it, the Enneagram sort of suggests that there are 9 there are many ways to kind of roughly introduce it. One way is to say that there are 9 broad areas of concern that our personalities sort of can choose to focus on, or can try to optimize. That's how I think of it. Our personality tries to optimize a particular thing, right? So at number 1, we try to be right, to do the right thing. Number 2, we're trying to be loving. We're trying to be giving and nurturing. At number 3, we're trying to be successful, right? We're trying to be, successful. Number 4, we're concerned with being our identity, with being who we are, our true subjective self. At number 5, we want to know things objectively. It's not about free from the self, as objectively as possible, right? At number 6, we're kind of concerned with staying connected, right? And the sense of our connection and the loyalty and the nature of our connection with others. At 7, we're worried about, or we're organized around what we want, right? And what will make us happy. At 8, we're organized around being strong and managing our vulnerability. And at 9, we're kind of organized around just being okay. We just want to be okay. We want everybody to be fine, right? So there's a whole lot that can be said about those questions I had for years. Why 9? Why those 9? I actually have answers to those questions, and one day I'll get the book out. So that's coming down the pike. But for now, that's kind of a broad, 2-word description of each. And so you'll see what it shows us is that we see our reactivity is organized around that. So a 1, they get all reactive and uppity and get into difficulties about things being done the right way. 2s get into difficulty because they're trying to be loving and nurturing all the time. 3s get into their reactivity because they want to be successful and be seen as being successful. 4s get into difficulty because they're wanting to be their own unique, special self, right? 5s get into difficulty because they want to be objective as far as possible and take themselves out of the picture, and bringing themselves into the picture feels so uncomfortable. 6s get into difficulty because they're trying to maintain that connection, right? Trying to stay loyal and stay connected, and very sensitive to if it feels like there might be no ground, no connection. 7s get into difficulty because what if it's not fun, right? It's got to be fun. They want things to be nice and enjoyable, right? So they get reactive if that's not going to work. 8s get into difficulty when they start feeling vulnerable, right? If there's any kind of vulnerability and they feel like their strength might be threatened. And 9s get into difficulty when it feels like people or things are impinging on not letting everything just be okay, right? Are disruptive or causing difficulties. So these broad patterns of reactivity, in time, as we continue exploring, we might begin to notice, okay, yeah, I tend to organize more around 1. I see myself more having 1 sort of pattern than another. And, it's useful information. I'll also say that as far as I can tell, we do all have all of them, right? So everybody has all of these things, but we tend to be focused more on 1 primarily. So I think I have spoken more than enough. And I'd like to give you a chance to explore for yourself. And the way I'd like to suggest you do this is you just have 5 minutes, right? You'll be in a room with one other person if you do the exercise. And you want to just look back over your inquiry. If you've been practicing inquiry, look back over your inquiry, just think about your inquiry and your inner experience over the last period, the last while. Couple of years or whatever it might be, and see if you notice, are there particular patterns? Are there particular things that you can discern that are not just, each day it's a totally different thing, but these kind of recurring issues, these recurring flavors, these recurring concerns that seem to keep coming up for you? And if so, see what you can say about them, right? If you find it fits into any of the 9 things I mentioned, cool. If you know something about the Enneagram, keep it as live and as fresh and as immediate as you can, right? So you don't want to be just trotting out, oh, I'm a 2 and I do this and this and this and this. You want to actually look, how does it show up? How has it been showing up? So if you're new to the Enneagram, you're just looking to see if you can recognize some kind of pattern, recurring pattern. And if you're familiar with the Enneagram, you want to be looking into, how is this kind of showing up for you recently, right? How, if you're approaching it fresh and not just telling a story about your type, but how do the issues of your type, how do you see that happening in your live experience recently? How is it showing up? Okay, so that's the exercise. You'll have 5 minutes each, and then take 5 minutes afterwards just to, discuss how that was and what you saw. Discuss how it is to see these patterns in yourself, in the other person. How's that affected you? What are you learning? And, really include, as always with inquiry, I invite you to include staying in touch with your body, sensing your arms and legs, and really including your felt sense as you are exploring. Say something about that too. Okay, so that'll be 15 minutes in total. We'll add 5 minutes. Yeah, we'll add 5 minutes. So, actually, given the time, I'd say take the 15 minutes and come right back. If you need to take a little break or grab some water or something, run to the bathroom, feel free to, but we'll pick up sort of just after 35 past the hour. So if you can come back as soon after the exercise as you can, so we've got time for questions and comments at the end. Alrighty, have fun, enjoy, and see you in a bit. Okay, so welcome back. Kind of a quick exercise. Let's see what you found. How was it to look at this? I'm curious if you have any questions, anything to share. Yeah, please, anything that you would like to ask, inquiry, Enneagram, all welcome. Trout, go ahead. There we go. You're on mute there still.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it was interesting to see that there's a recurring pattern in the inquiry. And for me, it was all about looking at my woundings and my pain.
Yes.
In order to, because I have a longing to find fulfillment, and for me it was always about, if I look at my woundings and pains, then there was a hope that I will eventually find the joy in life.
Oh, I see. Right. So, and how does it, as you see that pattern, how does that affect you?
Yeah, it's like, wow, that was like, as you said it, I thought, gosh, that is my pattern. But I couldn't, Enneagrams haven't been of my interest. One retreat was full of an Enneagram retreat, and I didn't connect with that at all. So a number I couldn't fix.
Yes, never mind about that. But you can see that there is this pattern of hoping to find the something good by looking at the
Yeah.
pain and
Yes.
kind of focusing on that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Very interesting to see that. And so
Yes.
again, yeah, it kind of gives you a broader perspective on something that's going on in you, and something is making that happen, right? You obviously have some idea about it. You must believe something about it to be doing that. And yeah, those are all things that you can then begin to look at, right?
Yes. And how it's funny how they've been recurring. But it must have been something that needed to be looked at, as you said, something, my consciousness, I guess,
Yes.
pointed these issues out.
Yes, yes. And again, it's not to say that you see a pattern and that's a bad thing, right? Or that it should be different or anything. But there is something about recognizing, okay, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
I like to see the opposite of all this.
What do you mean?
The opposite of having to look at, woundings and pains all the time.
Yes, wonderful. I mean, exactly. So now you can see that even begins to liberate your inquiry in a certain way. I mean, if where you are is woundings and pain, sure, that's what you can explore. But some days you might find it's not where you are. Actually, there's something totally different, Al. And some part of you is going, where are the woundings and pain? Look for those. That's what I have to find.
Yeah,
Right?
the familiar, yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
The familiarity, yes, yeah.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Beth, I think you're next.
Yeah. Dom, good to see you and thank you.
Yeah.
I've only been in the Diamond approach since March, and I've been an Enneagram student for probably 20 years. But what came up for me today in this brief inquiry session, which was so surprising, is I see just from March till now, and I'm doing a lot more inquiry and vulnerability. I'm an Ennea type 8. But in that 5 minutes, I so connected with my partner, and I just got so in touch with my heart that I started to cry. And I'm so aware of how much I crave like this deep kind of connection. And how I don't really have it in my regular everyday life. And that's what I see as the pattern that is showing up in my inquiry with myself, like really going to that feeling place, which has been, and that's the awareness that I'm seeing that's frequent, and that I'm more receptive to it.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful, so lovely to see that. Right, so actually when we really recognize and see through a pattern in a certain way, right, it can be very moving, right, really touches us. And we saw, all this time I've been pushing something away because it seemed like it would threaten, it would be vulnerable, but it turns out the vulnerability actually isn't so bad. It's actually something I want. Yeah.
And especially when you have someone that can meet you, like these, people that aren't afraid of going to these, unfamiliar places within themselves.
Yes, quite.
Thank you.
Lovely. Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for sharing that. Sergio.
Hi, Dominic.
Hey, Sergio.
Hey. So, I wanted to ask you first of all, when I do the calf, and some people say to put our tongue behind our upper teeth, and when I do that, I have experienced lately a deep connection with the calf center, but like with with a burning force coming from down and upwards and through my spine, and sometimes it's so strong. Then with that connection, it gets very difficult to see the other and to feel the other, and so I have to relax my tongue to come down and breathe into my heart, and then I can be with the other. Yeah.
But what do you mean to see and be the other when you're meditating?
Sorry?
What do you mean to see and be with the other when you're meditating?
Sorry. That normally happens. So I'm mixing up a bit now. Experiences in my daily life, when I'm in a situation that can be a bit defying, challenging, and then I try to focus myself. I do this breathing in, breathing out to the calf. I get really strong, very verticalized and very focused. But then my eyes cannot see the other anymore. I'm focused in my center, my energy. And so I noticed that is that, whoa, he's talking or she's talking and I'm not. I'm focusing in preserve my energy. You see?
Well, that makes sense. So it sounds, it's a concentration practice, right? And the aim of the kath meditation is you're just sensing the kath, and everything else is basically, you're just putting everything there. The practice I would suggest you use when you're in a challenging situation is sensing your arms and legs and looking and listening.
Okay.
The sensing practice. That's where that comes in handy, right? Because the whole point of the sensing practice is you got your arms and your legs, you're present, and you're looking and listening. So you're actually really there, taking in the fullness of the situation and being present with it.
Okay, thank you. That was my first worry, because because it gets really strong energy, and sometimes,
that's completely inwards.
Yes, and it becomes like a warrior. Now I'm with myself, and now, watch out.
It's definitely not the most interactive state.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so in our inquiry now, I've been feeling that a recurrent theme has to do with my worry of if I am myself, if I try to be myself, I would expect some negative reaction from the environment. Like, no, not nice, not welcome, not beautiful, not this, not this, not that. And so I lately I've been connecting with a fourth point, fourth type.
It sounds like,
yeah. And so also this the side of melancholy as well is very easy to be triggered, and so we are such in such a sad situation. And so I've been trying to dig into that, but in some moments when this rage comes or this assertiveness, I don't know if I'm an 8 because I'm still in the beginning. In some moments I avoid conflict. Maybe I'm a 9, I'm just trying to keep things in balance. And and looking for knowledge as well. I try a lot to read and to understand about life and reality. Maybe I'm a 5. And so just to share that.
So you know what? This is the thing. You don't have to put yourself in any particular box. What's nice to see is just to recognize the different patterns, right? And you might notice one is more dominant, or maybe it changes over time. You'll just see how that goes in your journey, right? Just what you described, like that's the truth, right? That's your reality at the moment. So that's all it needs to be. It really is true that we all have all of them, right? That really is the case. And you may find in time you recognize one being more dominant.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And it just means, and the point is that whichever one shows up, whatever on that particular day, whatever the issue is dominant, that's what you can explore, right? That's what you can find out something new about. Now you sit there, you're feeling, nobody's going to welcome me. Nothing's welcome me if I am really myself. Oh, wow. How come? What's making me feel that way, right? What is the self that nobody's going to welcome? And what's my feeling of the other that is not going to be welcoming the self, right? These are all things you can begin to explore.
That can bring me to my past,
there you go.
Yeah.
So it starts bringing you to your past. So then you bring up the layer of the past, right? See that layer of what's going on there. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, Martin.
Okay, that's my
Hi,
turn.
Martin.
Hi, Dominic. Yeah, I found it a very interesting question. You know, what is, so to speak, the red line or the common theme? Because in a way, I have done kinds of inquiry different from for a long, long time, and especially in writing. And what the red line or the common theme seems to be disagreement. When I'm in disagreement with someone or something, or conflict, or what feels like a conflict, then I feel this urge to explore this more.
What do you get into? Like, what kind of disagreements? What makes you get into a disagreement with someone? Or
Yeah,
something?
well, that's the question I sort of implicitly had in the inquiry.
Yeah.
I have to step back a little bit. For a long time, I thought, oh, Jesus, I want to be right, and as if it was a competitive thing. And of course, I was then judging that, so you know how that can spin off in all kind of tough thing. And this time, I realized it's not about competition, but it's about finding what's true or important for me. And that is kind of what I label as conflict or difference. That's basically what it is. When I explore the differences, it brings me closer to me.
Isn't that interesting?
And very relieving.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So when you explore the differences, what kind of differences? Differences in what?
Well, that can be difference in opinion, or I'm a psychotherapist, so with colleagues, but I have difference in how to treat people or to conceptualize. That's a favorite one of mine. And with friends too. Those two are the biggest ones.
Right. So when you have differences of opinion or of the way to do things or how things could be done, and you recognize, like, first having gone from it's like a conflict, and then you recognize, oh no, actually I can just discriminate the difference, and it helps me see more what my sense of it is.
That's what it serves. On one level, it's like a conflict, but what's really what it is in service of at a deeper level is connecting to myself in a deep way, or supporting myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a beautiful example, right? How the more we hang out with these things and we just continue to stay open and curious about them, right? At first we can see something about it, but the more we in time contemplate, well, yeah, but you know, what actually is this? If I don't judge it or reject it or say it's wrong, but I just see what is it actually trying to do and what is the effect of it, it begins to clarify. Right? Yeah, beautiful.
So
Lovely.
thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then we have Sharon. Hey, Sharon.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
I've done a lot of this today. I saw my teacher today and had a very deep inquiry with her, which was fantastic actually. But yeah, so I just sort of got into the Enneagram in true force. I became quite kind of obsessed by it, as I do with things. And I'm a 2, and surprise, surprise, and 1 point off a 7. So an enthusiastic helper, which a friend of mine sort of pointed out, which I wasn't that surprised about. But yeah, and you know, I just feel at the moment more and more, you know, not all the time, but what I loved about I've just got a very simple sort of beginner's I can't remember what it's called, but the one Kat recommended, which I think goes along with the actual website that you do it on, the Enneagram Institute. And
yeah, it's a good summary, that one.
Yeah, looking at the essence, the true essence of that type, was so touching, really. And over the last year, I suppose it's been this integration of a part of that type, actually.
Exactly.
This overextension. I mean, I cannot begin to tell you the pain of integrating that part of that had overextended, and underneath that, the grief of that overextension.
Yes.
And by staying with it, and it's a very young part, staying with it, that eventually it has dissolved.
Yes. So that's what we're talking about, right? So that's the inquiry bit, that when we really inquire into it, and we don't just explain it away, but we stay with it, and we penetrate into finding our way into these young parts, into these deep sort of places within us. In time, they really do begin to open up. And the things that are the gifts or that are the natural qualities of the type can begin to be in us in a more free way. And I think I have to say that what you say, I think, is very true for any of the types. When you really begin penetrating into the center of it, like for all of them in different ways, it's really challenging. It's really excruciating kind of territory. And that just kind of comes with it. That's what keeps the pattern in place. And it's really only by inquiring all the way into it that it can begin to open up and understanding it.
Well, what's amazing is the liberation. I feel touched, but and it's really helped me with my clients as well, actually. And so,
yes,
I'm a therapist as well. And the liberation, but that felt sense, and working with that felt sense, and the liberation, from. I just feel now, today I was just sitting in presence, this purpley, this very, very peaceful, huge, open expansiveness that took up the entirety of this room.
Yeah, beautiful.
And maybe beyond that, just rippling.
Great, yeah, really happy to hear that. So that's what can happen, right? It's wonderful to hear that as we really penetrate in, things start opening up in ways that we could never have imagined beforehand.
Well, I'm profoundly grateful for it.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So I'm afraid, Zaprian, we're kind of at time. So I will, hold your question, or feel free to email, be in touch, and we'll, hopefully catch you at the next one or something. I want to finish more or less on time. Susan has placed in the chat some various bits and pieces. We're meeting again on the 14th of December. We'll be talking about mindfulness. So I'm kind of touching in the next couple of months into all these things that are sort of adjacent to inquiry. So we've done the Enneagram. Next time we'll talk about mindfulness. We have the second sort of part of the inquiry course kicking off next week, 15th of November. So you can register for that if you're interested. It is recommended that you've done the first part, or that you're a reasonably experienced inquirer and have read the first part of my book at least, because that basic material would be taken for granted. And Susan also put there our Dive In With Dom recordings, where you can find those, and a Facebook page that we share stuff to. So these are all resources that you're welcome to access. And, feel free to be in touch, to write, to share your comments or questions, or if you have any other topics that you'd really like to see addressed in this forum, I'd love to hear from you with any of that. Is the next course about the Enneagram? It isn't. The next course is all about the 3 centers. So the head, the heart, and the belly, our mind, our feelings, and our sensations, and really how to bring that into our inquiry in a deeper way. So in a way, it's partly based on the last 3 chapters of the book, and then going further, going deeper into it. So that's what we'll be looking at there. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. It's all happens because you show up for it. So I hope you find something useful and something supportive for your practice. And look forward to seeing you next time. And as I said, feel free to be in touch in any way, email, messaging, through the Facebook page. I'm always happy to hear from you.